Good morning and welcome to another one of Drew's Book Reviews. Today's book is going to be on Brandon Sanderson's Arcanum Unbounded, the Cosmere collection. Now, the Cosmere has got to be one of the greatest universes ever written. Absolutely love it. Brandon Sanderson's got quite the imagination. And I love the way he's linked all the different worlds and the different series that he's written into a single Cosmere. So just a brief description of what the Cosmere actually is. So this is an amazing concept in which Cosmere was created by a god called Andalnalcium, who was shattered into 16 different pieces. And these different pieces are referred to as shards. These were spread out into the universe. And I could almost imagine this like a Big Bang type scenario where God just blew up into 16 different pieces, and those different pieces or shards effectively were the power behind what created each of the worlds in a different series that he's written. So what happened was when God was ripped into 16 different pieces or torn, is these shards were picked up by 16 individuals who became divine or gods themselves. These newly divine persons created the worlds with these shards. Each world includes pieces of a shard or an entire shard themselves, which create the foundation for the entire magic system of the world in which they're on. So this Cosmere collection kind of takes stories from the different worlds, now not all the worlds in the Cosmere, but a few of them, and puts them all together into a single volume, kind of like an anthology of short stories surrounding these worlds. So we start off with the Celis system, which is where the Emperor's soul takes place. So this story is basically about this Emperor who is wounded in an assassination attempt and becomes basically nothing. He is just an empty shell. Everything that is the Emperor, his soul has been ripped from him, and he is not anything. And this character named Shay, who has the ability to forge souls, so she could basically rewrite history to change the very nature of the physical reality in which she is in. Now, this is considered a very arcane or dark art, something that is evil. She is facing the death penalty for being this soul caster and using soul magic to change the very nature of reality. But the Empire realizes that Shay might be their only hope to save the Emperor, and that she is the only one who has the ability to effectively forge her soul, or the Emperor's soul. And so she is hired to forge the Emperor's soul. But in order to do this, she must really get to know the Emperor in a way that nobody else has. To forge a soul, you must know and understand the person you're copying. You must do an exceptionally deep exploration of what it means to be that person. And she must effectively forge the essence of the Emperor himself, to recreate his soul, in essence, to imbue his body back with his soul to such an incredible degree that nobody will ever realize or recognize that it is simply a forgery, a fake copy of his soul that has been imbued back into his body. And so the whole book is about her struggle to meet the deadlines put upon her or face the ultimate penalty of death. Which her sentence has basically been held off in exchange for her doing this work and forging the Emperor's soul. And then the other story within the Celis system is the Hope of Atlantis. So this is basically a story about how the children of Atlantis were saved. So what we have here is Atlantis is this odd city, in which it's basically, for all intents and purposes, a city of the dead. People are weak. Their skin is like gray coloration. If they get hurt or wounded, they simply put, will not heal. So this story of the Hope of Atlantis kind of fits into the greater scope of the story of Atlantis itself, which is a great book, by the way. Definitely pick it up and check it out. But it definitely has spoilers. It has plot spoilers within the book for the greater story of Atlantis. So definitely make sure that you read Atlantis first before picking up the Cosmere collection to avoid any kind of spoilers. Unless, of course, you don't mind spoilers, then go ahead. The Scadrian system, which is where we have the Mistborn series, one of my personal favorite series, Brandon Sanderson's. So this one is the Mistborn: The Secret Histories, and basically, what we have within the Secret Histories of Mistborn universe is this story basically takes place at with the death of Kelsier and what happens to our main character Kelsier after he dies. And what's really funny, one of my favorite parts of this entire Cosmere collection that I thought was absolutely hilarious, is Kelsier dies. And then when he dies, he finds himself in this place, which is, the spiritual or cognitive realm. There's actually three realms in the Cosmere universe. You've got the physical realm, you've got the cognitive realm, which allows travel between worlds, and you got the spiritual realm, which is kind of where you go after you die, essentially. And everything is reflected within all three realms, just in their different state, their physical state, their cognitive state, and their spiritual state. So what happens is after Kelsier dies, he sees this person here who at first he thinks must be just another ghost or spirit as he's passed on to the point of death into the spiritual realms here. But it turns out the spirit that he's seeing is actually God. And his first thought is, oh, crap, you mean God's real? And then he turns around and he just sucker punches him and starts demanding answers from God. I thought that was hilarious. The first thing you do when you meet this God is you turn around and sucker punch the guy and demand answers. I mean, Kelsier definitely has guts. Gotta respect the character for that. Absolutely one of my favorite scenes in that. I don't want to get too many spoilers into what's going on within the Mistborn series, so definitely, though Secret Histories definitely will have some spoilers from Mistborn, but overall really good to kind of see how Kelsier was working behind the scenes to affect what was happening in the physical realm. Just really awesome. And then we have the Teldane system. Now this is probably one of the most unique systems within the greater Cosmere. Teldane is this planet that is effectively tidal locked within a binary star system. So you got one side that is facing the small, weak white dwarf star that's enveloped in this particulate ring. And so there's like this uniform darkness is the norm on this side of the planet, this constant twilight level of daylight. It's always dark. And then the other side of the planet is like this vast desert that's facing this blue-white supergiant of a star. So there's this massive desert. And the shard autonomy is the shard that landed here and created the Teldane system. And essentially the star's light gives investiture, which is the main term to describe magic across the entire Cosmere. And it infuses the sands of this desert with investiture. And then that magic comes out when water is added. And what we have here is the Sandmasters, who are the magic users of this world. But the thing is, they typically have to draw water from their own bodies in order to infuse and bring out the magic in the sand. So it could be a very dangerous sort of magic. If you draw too much, you will dehydrate yourself to the extreme, which can be problematic for any Sandmaster, because you don't want to dehydrate yourself and get yourself killed. So our main character in the White Sand story is a character by the name of Praxton. He is very weak with his ability when it comes to the magic, but he is determined to become a Sandmaster, and he's basically put through this trial, so this obstacle course in the desert in which he has to collect these little red balls that have been hidden out in the desert, and he only has so much time to do so. A very limited amount of time to prove his worthiness as a Sandmaster. And one of the obstacles it comes across is basically this giant, massive sand beast or monster that likes to hide out in the deep sand. Kind of reminiscent in a way of the giant sandworms of Dune. So that was kind of really interesting little story within the White Sands universe, and really kind of liked and enjoyed that one. And it'd be interesting to see how that can possibly be expanded. And I hope Brandon Sanderson writes more of a novel-length stories, a couple of books perhaps in the White Sands universe. It'd be good to see that or read that, hopefully. And then we have next up the Threndanite system. So there's one story in this book with the Threndanite system called Shadows for Silence in the Forest of Hell. So this is is a title that caught my attention. I love the title Shadows for Silence in the Forest of Hell. But essentially, we have our main character who goes by the name of Silence, and she, well, literally lives in the Forest of Hell. So there isn't a lot of magic within this world. It's one of the worlds in the Cosmere that has very little, if any, magic at all. But essentially, she's basically like a bounty hunter, and she runs this inn in the Forest of Hell, where she basically opens everyone. She set up her inn to be basically like this safe place where all the criminals and worst of society feel safe, like they're not going to be turned in or anything. But she uses that as kind of a front to identify these people that she's hunting when they come in, so that she could follow and track them. And basically, she does this with a group of terrible, horrible murderers and rapists, and she follows them through the Forest of Hell at night. But the thing, why it's called the Forest of Hell, is because the forest is basically haunted with these demonic spirits that will hunt you down and destroy you if they catch it, even so much as a whiff of you. But the thing is that they're attracted to blood, right? So they're attracted to violence. So she has to hunt these guys down and kill them, but she has to do it without actually drawing it so much as a drop of blood, lest these demonic forest spirits come out and hunt her down as well. So it just kind of really puts her in a very difficult position. But she's in this position that she has to. It's the only way she's going to be able to survive, based on where she lives and what she's doing. In order for her business to survive, she has to keep that revenue going, and she only gets that money basically from hunting down these people as a bounty hunter, essentially. And then what we have as the final option in here is the Rosharan system. So this takes place, of course, in the world of Rosharan, the Stormlight Archive series. This is a fantastic series, the Stormlight Archive overall. And Edge Dancer is, again, there would be some spoilers in Edge Dancer. If you haven't read the Stormlight Archive, it takes place right before Oathbringer and just afterwards Radiance. Basically, we've got this story about this little orphan girl. She is this girl who's basically a yet to be declared Knight Radiant. She could essentially make food turn into Stormlight, which is the magical system of this world in which they live. So Stormlight is this magically infused lightning, essentially, that comes from these high storms that whip across the land and destroy everything in their path. So this girl's name is Lift, and she has a Spren with her. So Spren are like these kind of magical fairies that the magic users within this world will bond with to create a kind of paired magic that gives them their ability to do magic and perform magic. So Lift here, she's literally living on the edge. She is being hunted by a rogue herald that goes by the name of Nail. Herald, he's like one of the 10 original Knights Radiants, is what a herald is. And they founded the 10 different orders of the Knights Radiant. But this guy, Nail, he's basically like a demigod, and he believes himself to be justice. He's the one that is administering justice, and he is the one that is right as far as he's concerned. But basically, he's lost his mind. He's hunting Lift down because he fears what she will be able to do. So she doesn't have much of a role in the actual books themselves yet, but Brandon Sanderson has certainly hinted at that is going to be something that will come in the future, that there is going to be more going on with her character down the road. So again, like a lot of the books and stories within the Cosmere collection, there are spoilers to many of the series from which these stories take place within. Specifically like the Atlantis series, the Mistborn series, as well as the Stormlight Archive series. But overall, just fantastic read. Absolutely loved it. And I love the Cosmere, one of the greatest universes in fantasy ever created as far as I'm concerned. Absolutely loved it. So those are just some of my thoughts on the Cosmere collection, Arcanum Unbounded. Definitely well worth the read, especially if you've read all the Brandon Sanderson works, all the other stuff. definitely worth your time. Check it out. And as always, thanks for watching. I will leave a description in the description, links to all my social media profiles. Also, check out the Brandon Sanderson playlist on this channel. I've got some other reviews from other Brandon Sanderson books on there, so definitely be sure to check that out. Of course, reviews on some of the other books that I've mentioned as well. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to stay tuned. Next up, we are going to be reviewing George R.R. Martin's Fire and Blood, 300 years before A Game of Thrones, when dragons ruled Westeros. So definitely stay tuned for that to check it out. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and of course share if you choose to do so. Thanks for watching. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time on the next episode of Drew's Book Reviews.